It's the Regular Expressions podcast. Join Noah Heldman and Ben Griswold as they talk about technology, consulting, and life. In episode 23, Ben and Noah decide once and for all whether SaaS is dead. They discuss how the build versus buy decision has evolved and where AI fits in that evolution. It's your old pal Rachel, and I was born inside a SaaS app, so I for one hope SaaS is around for a long time.
Today's topic is SaaS dead? Oh boy, this is a thing we're hearing all over the place, and the stock market seems to be reacting to it as well.
Yep.
SaaS is a pretty important part of our daily life, our business. We use all kinds of different commercial apps. People have had the build versus buy decision for decades. And it's a really nuanced and complex thing. From my perspective, it's not just do we build or do we buy? There's all kinds of stuff in between. So it's a big spectrum. So yeah, let's talk about that a little bit today. So curious about your thoughts on SaaS and is it dead?
Yeah, well, the whole conversation has been brought about because of AI. Right? It's about how quickly folks can spin up tools, how they can automate some of their workflow just so quickly, gets in front of executives and like, wow, this thing is amazing. Not necessarily realizing if it's production ready or not. Just we have this thought that AI solution generation can in fact reduce some of the heartache that comes with SaaS solutions. Oh, it seems like that conversation's all over the place, and I'm glad we're unpacking it a bit today, Noah.
Yeah. Well, I think back to pre-cloud and all the work it took to get a server into a rack, all the planning, the time it took. You had to plan for 4 to 6 weeks before something was going to actually be usable. Were obvious costs. There was dealing with the administrators, making sure you were putting it into a data center that met all of your requirements. I remember going and touring data centers, making sure they had the fully cooled floor and the halon fire suppression, which then, anyway. Then we got cloud, the cloud ability to click a button and have a new server ready for use within a few seconds. And obviously that changed the industry substantially. And it changed the build versus buy equation to a great degree. We had commoditized servers in the cloud, and you could just take a little fraction of them. And I feel like there's a similarity here, as we're still on the early side of what AI can do to replace SaaS apps quickly. We've done it ourselves. We've built SaaS apps that replace a small slice of our business. We're effectively a 2-person partnership with a really great network of people of all types of skills, but we need to track our stuff on a daily basis. We were using SaaS tools, and we built with AI some tools that the two of us can use effectively because it's the two of us. But if I'm a 100-person company, I think I still need SaaS, at least for right now. I don't want to build and then operationalize and run something that is something else, something somebody else has done much better and has a team to maintain, and I can still pay a low cost for. What I hope is that SaaS is not dead, but that the people who are building these products have AI to accelerate the building process and just give us more and more great features at what is hopefully a lower cost. That's kind of how I see it right now, and certainly it could shift.
Yeah, it makes sense. When I think of SaaS, I think of Salesforce, Workday, I think of ServiceNow. I think of these ubiquitous platforms that are really baked in and integrated with an organization, right? So that integration, I think what you get with that is, this full-fledged functionality that's really off the shelf, supposed to work the same for everybody with high configuration and hopefully not customization, right? I think that what you get with it is you get to spin up a solution pretty quickly, so you don't have to use your own manpower to bring up something that's bespoke that might in fact fit your business just a little bit better. You get to outsource all of the maintainability of those systems. When there's issues, you hope that the provider can address those issues swiftly for you. But the trade-off is that control. And I wonder with, outsourcing all of the maintenance, the deployments, everything like that, all the feature requirements, the control goes away. And one would think if they start using AI to quickly spin up these small little pieces of their business or automating full-blown solutions, and who knows, someday replacing a full SaaS provider like Workday, right? Well, that's a heck of a weekend project. Do you really gain the benefits that you might want when you build, which is having full control over a system, really understanding the ins and outs, having it mirror your business? And I just don't think so. I think when you have somebody vibe coding a part of a SaaS offering, all of that understanding of how it works may be available to one or two core staff members, but at worst, it's not even in their heads. It's just in the code, which who knows how well that's being maintained. So one of those big influencers on whether to build or buy, I think, goes away. You really don't have control of the core software if you are generating through AI.
Especially if you're not being incredibly diligent about the specs that you create, maintain,
right,
enforcing proper testing, not just AI unit testing its own stuff, but having a separate scenario-based testing harness that looks objectively at what your app is supposed to do and can test it and criticize it. And that's, in a feedback loop with the code that's being written, documentation, all of it, right? And then there's compliance and legal, all this kind of thing that goes into it. And I think back to the build versus buy conversations all the way back toward the beginning of my career. And it's funny how it really hasn't changed that much when I talk to senior technology leaders in organizations, including a project we just recently got out of. Most tech leaders are looking for the fewest possible applications to support everything that their business does. If there was one app that could rule them all, Salesforce can do everything. That's still a preference because you have one place you can go to, and it's the trusted SaaS platform that runs your whole business. And you mentioned a few. There's also SAP and Oracle, which are also notoriously configuration and customization heavy, because all of the tools you mentioned try to be everything to everybody. And that means they're not exactly right for anybody. So when you quote buy Salesforce, you're really buying just Lego bricks that you can build together to fit your business. And then you have teams that have to customize, extend, maintain, not only on the administrative side, but the code side. And it's true of all of these platforms. There's so much customization that goes into it. And I don't know if there's really a benefit of saying, yep, our entire business runs on Salesforce. That is its own problem too. Now you've put all your eggs in that basket. Then the other side would be if you're doing a ton of integrations and everything is a purpose-built tool or a specialty tool, even if you're buying it, and you're worried about the integration plane, that's incredibly complicated too. So I mentioned the spectrum. There is this balance between big trusted vendors that do what they do really, really well and provide you those hooks for integration, and best of breed tools that do what they do incredibly well in a tiny slice of it, but hopefully have good integration points as well. And any of these bespoke tools, and we've built some really cool stuff really quickly, again, for our needs, we're not putting this out there commercially. That's great, but you're just solving, as you said, one small slice of a problem that hopefully fits neatly into the rest of your organization's infrastructure and meets every legal compliance, security, and whatever else requirement that the organization has. And that seems to me like, well, I'd probably rather just outsource that to a SaaS provider who's already SOC 2 Type 2 compliant and HIPAA compliant, or whatever else compliant you need. So it seems to me like we're not quite there. SaaS isn't over.
Yeah, like part of the deal is you're buying the move of the risk from in-house to out of house, right? You've got some of these SaaS providers that have dedicated tenants which can be used by the federal government, right? Like there's some of this that's just so locked down, it allows you to only have certain rules and regulations for this corner of the world because that's what's necessary. So there certainly is an opportunity to buy whatever your needs are, but it still comes back to the control, and some of the control that I think is pretty interesting is around the idea that as a CTO, I not only want to ensure I have the right solution, I want to make sure I can get out of whatever decision I made too. And so that's where I think there's this trick with SaaS. It's like, okay, I can get this SaaS solution in pretty quickly. I recognize I've got to buy based on this many seats or this head count or upfront cost. Great. So at least that's pretty much fixed as I go. But all right, what's vendor lock-in? What does that look like? How much do I really want to integrate this SaaS solution into my core products? How can I possibly unwind this down the road if I need to? So here's my decision today. How do I get out of my decision tomorrow? And maybe with the custom software approach, you have more opportunity. You might want to move away from a vendor, yes, for cost, but maybe they can't service your needs any longer. Maybe they don't have the features and they're not evolving with your business. If you're building your own, yeah, I'll adapt my software to meet that need going forward, as long as I have the skills in-house to do so. Why not? So the control flexibility, I think I'm looking at as well as really key motivators to do things, bespoke in-house.
You made me think of Shadow IT and Excel. And I think Shadow IT just got shadowier, if that's a word, because so many people don't get what they want or expect from an AI tool, not an AI tool, sorry, a SaaS tool, and will just export, if they can, to a CSV or to an Excel, and then go manipulate further on their side. Right. And then there's the people who back in the day would build Microsoft Access applications, because Excel didn't quite give them the form control they wanted. So they just started building Access applications that could only be used by a maximum of 10 people at a time. It was running on a server under someone's desk. So that ran into limitations. And then so many people still use Excel or Google Sheets, where you can do the collaborative thing as a Shadow IT capability. And AI is just making it easier to build more full-featured Shadow IT capabilities. They're not integrated by default into any infrastructure. They're not going through that due diligence. We're not at the point with AI where we can trust the operationalization as much as we can the code, just the core code. And even things like scalability. If you know how to spec correctly when you're talking to AI, you can get a scalable system design. You still have to be disciplined enough to put all the different pieces in place, but that's where you're back to. It's got to run in the cloud, and it's going to be costly. If you're going to do some of these things, We buy SaaS because the cost is hopefully subsidized across many customers or thousands of or millions of customers to where it's providing a core function, and we're not having to invest in building it or maintaining it. And that's still incredibly valuable, maybe for a smaller slice of the things that we need to get done on a daily basis, but still pretty valuable.
You mentioned shadow IT. It's the shadow AI now is popping up, and I just absolutely love that term. And again, one of our recent customers, we did a whole bunch of interviews, and it seemed that each individual that we interviewed had their own, custom GPT, right? And they even had names for some of these, and they seemed really fun, but they were just this little, every person had their own tools, like the spreadsheet, like whatever, right? And how much fun this AI sprawl that they're dealing with. Really hard to package that up into a SaaS platform. Right. So there's really some value to be able to spin these up, but they're really just tools. These are, which is great, right? That's where there's total value, these quick little prototypes that you can leverage on your own for your very, very, very thin slice of thing. But to replace an entire SaaS platform, I think is just I think that's just a silly idea, assuming it's true SaaS. If it's true SaaS, there's a strong sense of data in which it's managing, right? That's probably their moat, if you will, for the SaaS platform. It's not just a shim on top of a larger, infrastructure at the organization. So it can live on its own, and there actually is value outside of the functionality that it has. So I think that, sure, make your tools, but I'm not sure you can really replace SaaS, which is really the true SaaS that help organizations work the way that they do today.
I totally agree with you. And I'm going to make a point that is not a disagreement, but ties back to what I was saying earlier about the tools that we are using for our partnership. And I think it actually illustrates your point. So we were using tools to track our time. They were not ideal. They didn't have the best UX, and they had a bunch of features we didn't need because of our small size. We were also using a CRM application, or really like not even using a real CRM application, but we were exposed to different ones throughout our careers. And again, they all felt a little bit too heavy-handed, complicated for our needs. Right. Same thing for invoicing. Now we're still using this third-party SaaS to do our invoicing, but we built out a feature in our application to do invoicing. Amazing how quickly it was to build that, but neither of us is quite ready to pull the trigger on that. There's a barrier, and there's a bit of a trust in the tool we were using, and it's a nice tool, and it also has way more features than we need, which is why we decided, let's build this invoicing capability. So what's interesting is I love our time tracker. I love our mini CRM. It gives us exactly what we need for our small enterprise, where we're not tracking incredibly sensitive data. We're not integrating with a bunch of other systems. So this approach of AI tooling is fantastic for a startup. It's just like if you got your $200 in credits from Azure or AWS for your startup business. Yeah, go spin up some resources and just try it out. You'll be amazed at what you can do. And then you have to run and grow your business. And that's the point at which you decide, yeah, I don't want to maintain this anymore. I think I need to outsource this. What's the best SaaS for us as we grow?
Yeah. Because we talk about AI quite a bit here, what we're noticing with SaaS products, Salesforce, ServiceNow, you name it, they're bringing AI into their platforms now. So there's an interesting bit is, are the platforms leveraging AI more swiftly than the consumers of the SaaS products. And I'm mentioning this because I'm sure that they're doing their engineering AI supported inside of the ServiceNow, et cetera, but then also giving the capabilities to leverage AI for their consumers. Is that enough now to keep the organizations to not engineer their own solutions, right? Like the whole draw was get to market as quickly as possible, get these features into our ecosystem as quickly as possible. Let's not support them. Let's move the risk to the SaaS providers. Well, they're also giving you far more features, far more capabilities. So, this is a more enticing offer. So even though we could build our own tools, it likely doesn't make sense. It's building the right thing at the right time, the right way. That's a hard thing to say if you already have the perfect solution and you're already in bed with that third party as well. Oh, I wonder now who really is benefiting from the ability to enhance, to build upon AI capabilities. Is it the SaaS providers or is it those that are leveraging SaaS?
Yeah, and we've seen many companies really just bolt on that AI capability, and in my experience, have it not be very valuable or just not bother with it, either because I don't trust it or because I know how I like to work with the tool. This could be in Google or tools, Gmail, anything where you have the Gemini helper just flashing in the corner. I don't use that, and maybe I'm the exception. Same thing with our email application. We both use a desktop application for email. There's always this AI thing in the corner. I ignore it because I know how to write an email. And sure, it's nice that something can help you write an email if you don't want to bother, but that's still one of those areas that I hold dear in terms of this is my voice. This is how I put myself out there. I'm fine to take a few minutes to write an email that I know is 100% my words, my typos if they're in there. And that's just part of being genuine. So I just don't trust a lot of the AI bolt-on stuff.
Yeah, I also don't trust that everything that is supposedly bolted on is actually AI. Powered by AI. Who knows what this means? We made a joke earlier, or I made a hilarious joke earlier, where we had scheduled our last podcast to go out 8 a.m. Monday morning.
Right.
You let me know, hey, it's out the door, and I made some joke about intelligent automation baked into that process. And no, not really. It was just on a schedule and it was shipped. And could somebody say intelligent automation, some AI behind it? Sure. But was it really? I don't think so. So we still also, this isn't even close to what we're talking about today, but how frequently AI pops up, and maybe that question of whether or not it truly is AI.
Not only that, we've talked about just solutioning because you feel like AI should be what's driving everything. And I'm guilty of this. I sent you a little Valentine image, if you remember. And it was a joke. It was a little bit off color. I'll just say that, but it was just a joke from me to you. I tried to have ChatGPT generate that image, and it wouldn't do it. So I went to an old school website that was it's probably been there for 20 years, and it's just type what you want to appear on the Valentine candy, and it just creates the image for you. It's like, oh, right. Because it's a really simple problem to solve. We don't need to throw a trillion parameters of an intelligent model at it.
Yes. Yes. So Noah, as we close here, is SaaS dead?
Well, it would be really weird if I said yes, absolutely at this point, based on everything we just talked about. No, it is not. And I think It will change shape in the next few years, but will be around in larger organizations for quite a while. Maybe not at the level of COBOL and Fortran mainframes that still run all of our banks, but it's not going away for a while. And what do you think?
Yeah, I agree. And I think especially if it's true SaaS, if it's providing value for a myriad of reasons, saving time, saving cost, providing all of the functionality, and then also some of those just where we are so grounded in organizations, they can't let us go. I think SaaS is going to be around for a long time. I do hope that some of the providers that aren't bringing a lot to market, I hope those slowly are replaced. And so maybe some of our customers that are really hoping to, home in on X number of applications that do all of the right things, maybe they won't have to deal with the tool sprawl that most of them do deal with. But I think it's going to be a long time coming until you get some of these big players maybe moved out of our line of sight when we're watching Super Bowl commercials. That's my thinking.
Yes. Well, I sure hope it ups the game across the board, ups the quality. There's no reason that it shouldn't. It's raising the concern, and we should all pivot and be ready for it.